week's Fire and Life Safety Awareness Week is being observed under the theme Embracing Digital Innovation to Improve Fire Safety. Along with me is my astute colleague. I will allow him to introduce himself.
Right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrae Gordon. It's a pleasure to be here. Today we'll be focusing on digital innovation and it relates to fire focus and how it can make Jamaica safer, right? We'll be diving in on a few topics that are essential to what can make us safer. And of course, as firefighter, we never work alone. And of course, I have my very able colleague here,
Firefighter Ian Davis.
But before we dive into all of that, let us give you a recap of what we have done thus far as it relates to the week of fire safety. Now, this year, the St. James Division embarked on a series of educational campaign as it relates to digital innovation. Monday, we started off with a very vibrant and educative, informative junior school challenge quiz competition, which saw Bow Hill Primary going up against Carnaldi Avenue Primary in the final, which was breathtaking. Who won that final?
Carnaldi Avenue Primary.
Oh, I believe you have some attachment to that school.
Well, I don't know about that. What I do know is that the better team won.
Well, so tell us about day two.
Day two was where the intellectuals met to demonstrate their brilliance of speech. And so we had the #1 debating school in the entire island, Montego Bay High School for girls, going up against.
If memory serves me correct, there was an upset in that final.
Certainly an upset.
Right. We had very own Herbert Morrison Technical High School was able to defeat the #1 challenger or the champion in Jamaica.
Right.
But that was good. Really good. We have some highlights of that. You can see it on our page as well. We have lots of videos as it relates to that. On Wednesday though, I feel Wednesday was truly special. We made impact on the communities.
Right, we did.
Right? We would have visited 3 communities in the parish of St. James, namely Mount Zion, Spot Valley, and Little Port. What we did in those communities, we provide installation of smoke detectors. We gave them smart bulb or energy saving bulbs. We embarked on a very educational campaign as it relates to fire safety and the do's and don'ts as what to do as it relates to fire safety. Is there anything that stood out for you on that day?
Particularly meeting members of the community, hearing their questions, and I'm realizing that the need for fire education is great in Jamaica, and I continue to commend the St. James Division for what they're doing.
And as we do, as fire prevention officer, one of our mandates is to educate. But what still surprises me is the fact that a lot of persons in our community still don't know where their fire stations are located or the number for their closest fire station. So some of that, we gave a lot of detail as it relates to the information that we provide, the different sections in the Jamaica Fire Brigade, and it was well received. I think that we would have left a very good imprint on those communities.
Indelible impact. I agree with you.
Thank you. And Thursday was just special. Thursday we had once you do hard work, I believe that you must be celebrated.
Right.
And we would have celebrated our high schoolers, we would have celebrated our primary school students who would have participated in the quiz competition and the debate competition, right? We had special guests from the Jamaica Fire Brigade, we have persons from the Municipal Corporation, representing the Mayor's office, and of course, we have a very special sponsor for the Jamaica Fire Brigade.
Definitely.
Who's that?
Lorraine J. Smith.
Yes.
Yes, from the Lorraine J. Foundation, Smith's Foundation. We've been having a meaningful week. Today will be no less. Today, as we begin our podcast, we want to look at a variety of areas. Namely, we want to look at the solar panel systems. We want to look at electrical vehicles and
of course, we have our very own
in-house
fire investigator.
Right.
A lot of persons may think that firefighters only focus on, like, we have bronze and we have brains. And
right.
Within us, we have an author as well, who specializes as it relates to.
Did I hear you say we have an in-house author?
We have an in-house author,
that,
right? We will be speaking on mental health, because a lot of persons neglect or don't think that firefighter goes through trauma, right? A firefighter is called to almost every emergency situation, whether it be a vehicle, whether it be flooding, a storm, whatever it is, we're the first responders, right? So persons who are first on the scene are always open to that form of trauma. And some of the times, instead of drinking away your pain, it's best for you to communicate us. And we will be speaking to one, Micheal Morrison,
right,
who is our, like you said, in-house author that will provide us more information as it relates to mental health and how to deal with trauma. How should we start?
As we begin today's proceedings, we want to look at the whole matter of photovoltaic, a very fancy word that refers to solar panel systems. And so I want to welcome to the platform, to begin with, our very own
Jervn Fletcher.
Jervn Fletcher, corporal within the Jamaica Fire Brigade. Welcome, sir. Good to have you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
So,
Have a seat.
yes, sir.
You know, to begin with, sir, I'm looking at your uniform. It is quite distinct from ours. Can you speak a little bit about your uniform and how it differs from ours?
All right. It's what? Morning?
Afternoon.
Still afternoon. No? Afternoon. Greetings, everyone. I am Jervn Fletcher, of course, corporal of the Jamaica Fire Brigade. And this pretty uniform here, yes, it represents the Marine Division.
The Marine Division. So you work on the fire boat. If there is a fire on the sea, you are one of those persons who would bravely tackle that.
Yes, indeed.
So from fire on the sea to solar panels, help me to make the connection here.
No,
How did that become a thing for you?
Right. So since grade 9, thereabout, I've been doing electrical installations.
Okay.
Right. And that is a skill area I've chosen, as a young man growing up or so on. So I've always been dabbling, in electrical installation. When it reaches about, let's say, 2011, thereabout, trying to get electrical, jobs or so on out there was a problem.
We've been hearing good things about installing solar panels. We've been hearing about the financial benefits, but we don't want to speculate anymore. That is why we invited you. Sir.
All right.
Well, just to follow up on something that he said earlier, said back in 10th grade. Oh, Mr. Fletcher and I, we have a very, unique relationship. The fact that we known each other for a while. We actually went to high school together.
Okay.
All right.
And in addition to that, we also trained together as it relates to joining the Jamaica Fire Brigade.
Okay.
So I know his journey a bit. I always thought he was afraid of electricity though. Just kidding. But it's good to have you, Mr. Fletcher. So, like Mr. Davis says, tell us about the difference between photovoltaic system and their installation as it relates to as opposed to regular electricity.
All right. So, firstly, we have 3 main types of installation that you see on buildings. We have the grid tie, we have off-grid systems, and we have what we call the grid interactive systems. You understand? Also known as
hybrid for the audience.
Known as hybrid systems. Now, the grid tie systems operate during the day. where solar power is used to offset energy on demand on a site or commercial building. You have a question?
No, man, go ahead. I'm listening.
All right. Now, the excess power is often sent to the grid. You understand? Where JPS, which is our grid, would compensate customers through a medium which I call net billing and so on. These types of systems is best suited for commercial buildings. You understand? Why normally when these buildings here I have less power and so on. The initial startup for these systems are often cheaper than if they should incorporate a battery with them.
Okay.
And so,
This type of system does not carry a battery.
does not carry a battery.
Oh, okay.
And a bit of downside to that type of system is that when and if the power do goes, you understand, then as a means to protect other line workers and so on, there's no power to protect that.
Alright. So with this type of system also, depending on how the amount of load that would have been gathered in the day, the chance that they could lose power in the night, or because you are connected to JPS, they will kick in at that time.
So, as I mentioned, normal and commercial buildings and so on, the night consumption is sort of minimum. You understand? So yes, to use energy properly. The other system that I mentioned earlier is the off-grid system. Or so on. It is mainly like in the rural areas or so on. It is costly to get JPS running, you know, good distance to where an house is actually is. Customers will find it more convenient to install these type of systems, whereas as the word suggests, off-grid. Normally you operate panels on the roof, the inverter, charge controller, and of course batteries. So, they tend to sometimes couple like a generator. So for us as firefighters going to these type of installations, they should be a part just to keep in mind that there might be a generator.
You said the hybrid system.
So the hybrid system is basically an incorporation of both systems that I just mentioned. Grid type as well as off-grid. Panels on the roof, charge controllers, inverter, battery, along with the JPS coupled to the system.
So each of these systems would have their own risks, right?
In general, I believe in yes.
Okay, so tell us about the risks associated with these systems, the various systems, and how they manage these risks.
Alright, so when we talk about risks here, we're talking about having the grid clashes with the power that is being produced by the solar system. And how we often prevent these things is by means of what we call isolators, breakers, transfer switches, fuses, and so with these components displays are solved, we often have like little to no transfer, so much of risk identities. Unless the appliances are solved, this is how.
You know, I wanted to engage you as well as it relates to digital innovation as we go forward as a nation. Do you think that solar panel systems are the way forward for Jamaica? Based on what you are seeing, is it that Jamaicans are buying into this? And what are the concerns they should have in addition to just looking at the benefits?
To be honest, at this point, we can hardly, get panels in a timely basis to supply customers.
Wow. The demand is great.
The demand is great, especially since, what's the last term?
Beryl, yes.
Right. And so on. The need for solar has, been recognized, and it is been widely incorporated in residential homes and even the business here.
But some may think that solar panels really are for the rich and happy, the upper echelon of St. James and beyond. Can the average working class person make such an investment?
You know, I've come to the understanding that once you're able to pay a monthly bill,
Right.
you understand, then there is a system that can be designed for it. Yes.
You know, I want to ask you a question. So let's say I get one of these systems. Is there any special care and maintenance that needs to be done? So can I, for example, I have access to my roof. Can I go up there and clean off the panels and stuff like that? And if so, what is it that I should look out for?
Are you certified in doing solar?
No, I'm not.
Then why would you be the one to go there and to carry out these?
Okay, so go ahead. So,
Right. You see, this is one of the things that often, cause some amount of issues or so on, because we have what is called, or what people call themselves, DIY.
Yes.
Do it yourself.
yes, I like to do it myself.
Right. And you see, there are sometimes some technical information that one needs to interpret or to have, certain skills to basically get the job.
So you're saying I can't clean off my panel?
And try to clean the panels, and next thing you decide to use some form of corrosive chemical, that just damage the wire or the panel itself, or so on. It's best to always have the professional carry out these things. We need to get installer, have a scheduled maintenance, period whereas, every 6 months
So
or
is there a
so.
recommendation for that?
Yes, man.
6 months?
Well, 6 months, yes, could be used, especially let me put it that it depends on the type of system that you have.
Let me ask you a more direct question.
Right.
Those panels, do they hold any form of charge? For example, if I go up there with my bucket of soap and water and wash it, am I in any danger, or do you just want my money to come and clean it?
See, once there's these panels produce current, and the current will be there right throughout the data. Once you have that, or some there's going to be.
So I can get it?
You're at risk.
Okay.
I feel as though the way forward for Jamaica is perhaps for now the hybrid system.
Right.
But the way forward has to be digital innovation. And whilst we embrace it, we want to make our environs fire safe. As a fireman, finally, if I should go to the scene and I see a house with multiple solar panels, what should I take into account? How should I approach this type of fire? Are there any special consideration? What would you say to us as a professional?
Alright, so as firefighters or first responders responding to an emergency like this, you understand? We want to, upon arrival, you understand, try to communicate with, let's say, the homeowner
Right,
or so.
if available.
Right, if available or so. Because oftentimes these persons can show you where they are, isolators, they are rapid shutdown systems.
Right.
You understand? Whereas these type of systems, once there's a fire or something out of this, you understand, basically try to cut down the power production from these panels within seconds, basically. It's
So
like
that would be a better option than to put water on the solar panel.
So that is to eliminate, you understand, the risk of being shocked or electrocuted, right?
Right.
But as we have to know, or should know, once you remove electricity from these components or so on, then they're
Right.
basically,
Right.
normal combustible materials or so on. So,
Sir Fletcher, before you continue.
I want to follow up on something, Mr. Davis.
Okay.
So we've been focusing on the panels, right? What about a system that is completely off the grid, that would have the batteries? How do you treat the batteries? Because I'm assuming that the batteries will hold some charge, right? What are the different type of batteries, right? Because I've heard areas where persons say that the battery drain and it leaks and it gives off fumes. Do you have any information on that? What should we look out for?
alright. So in Jamaica, you will find mainly two types of batteries, being used in our installations here. And those are the lead acid battery, right? And these batteries, they often have what is called acid, basically, in the or so on. In terms of lifespan for these batteries or so on, they last basically between 3 to 7 years or so on. The other type of batteries that we find is the lithium batteries or so on, and I must say that at this point, in terms of cost, you understand, lithium is basically, when you think about having to maintain lead acid batteries or so on, lithium is the way to go.
Oh, okay.
All right. Fire hazard and risk or so on. The lead acid battery, unless may come in contact with the poles, the metal object or so on, or some other defect or so on, oftentimes you don't get like a fire, even though the cells get dried out with this acid that I mentioned earlier or so on. They may overheat and overheat, but just bursting into flames, it has to be going on for
you will have signs.
Or so on. You'll have signs before it does happen.
Okay. And water can come in contact with these batteries if you have an emergency that you need to. There is no danger in adding water to these batteries.
There is no immediate danger like that to put out a fire with these batteries like that. Once, as I said, you cut off the main source.
I know we are strapped for time, but I have another question I want to follow up, if you permit me.
Okay.
In terms of storage, right? Is there anywhere that you would recommend that persons install these batteries? Or should they build like their own little housing for them or anything like that?
Right. For those who are just building, or so on, I would recommend having an area card dedicated for these setup, like what we call a power room or so on. You understand? That is a safe area. You understand? You make it somewhat ventilated and away from, let's say, kids and so on, other persons who may mess with it. Besides that, let's say we're going to have the panel, the distribution panel,
Okay.
I'm listening to you. The more you speak is the more I realize that we need a part 2. You've been very informative. Could you take this time out as well to share where could we access solar panels? I don't know if you have a business.
Yes.
Could you go ahead and share with us?
Right. So if you do need solar panels or anything relating to solar, whether to get the job done or so on, you can contact me at 876-421-1829, WhatsApp, or even Instagram.
Could you give your Instagram handle? Go ahead.
All right. High-tech services.
High-tech services.
All right.
Mr. Fletcher, a pleasure meeting you, interviewing you, and we hope to do this in the future. Thanks for joining us.
All right, Mr. Fletcher. All the best to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mr. Fletcher.
Wow.
An engaging interview.
Very engaging. That was a mouthful.
I heard a lot that I didn't know before now.
Okay.
And I heard some refreshers. The 3 types of
systems
that are used. The grid, the hybrid, and the
the off system.
grid. Yes. Yes.
I really want to go off the grid still.
Which is the most cost effective of all of them though?
I think I'm gonna say off the grid. I believe off the grid is
Right.
because that way we don't have to pay anything to JPS, and I don't think we'll be able to produce enough to sell back to JPS.
Right.
So if we get able to go off the grid, I think I would love that.
Right. It's so
I'm actually looking into doing that.
no.
Yes.
I believe when we think about solar panels, we're thinking about a long-term investment. And so
As we should.
And so I would encourage everyone, all Jamaicans, if you're able to afford, make the investment before it is too late.
Initially when you heard about solar, I know it would be a scary thing. But listening to Mr. Fletcher speak,
Yeah, he broke it down.
He broke it down. And it doesn't seem that scary.
No.
But like everything, just like we always talk about in fire, it's a what? It's a bad master, but it's a good servant.
Good servant.
So as long as you can control the variables, you'll be able to produce high quality work for you. Right?
And we want to thank him again.
Thank you. As we move into the second part of this interview, right? I'm gonna take time out. I know this man has his bio opener. I don't really want to dive too much into that. I think we should give him the opportunity to go and tell the people all the things he has done.
I am aware that not everyone is being privileged to see the audience. We see a number of our senior leaders, and we want to say good to see you, Sir De Souza and Miss Henry. And we want to greet our audience. You all look chirpy and happy, and we appreciate the level of energy that we are seeing in the audience. Thank you so very much.
Yes. Well,
the more exciting part has come.
Yes.
So, when I joined the fire brigade, I knew that there was a section that deals with out in the fire, and we call it the suppression department. And there's a section that deals with public education, and we call that the fire prevention. I didn't know there was a section that deals with fire investigation. Were you aware? Was there always such a department within the brigade?
Well, during my time, there have always been persons who are investigators or does investigation. But there was never truly an established section that is for investigation.
Right.
Today is 2024, and a lot of things has changed.
Right.
Right? Where are we right now?
We're making strides at the Montego Bay Fire Station.
All right, so we're in Montego Bay Fire Station. Area 4 has its very own head of fire investigation.
Right.
Right? Now this gentleman has been in the fire service since 1998.
98.
Yes. What year did you leave high school?
I went to high school in 1998.
You went to high school, okay.
Right.
So the moment you went to high school, this gentleman has been in the fire service, right?
A man with years of experience.
Years of wisdom.
Yes.
Right? So at this time,
yes,
let us not hesitate in welcoming District Officer Oniel, Kerr.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Welcome, sir.
Yes, sir. Welcome. Have a seat.
So I'd like to begin this interview by saying, whenever I'm
just looking at one of your smoke detectors here. Go ahead.
Whenever I go to the Montego Bay Fire Station, most times you are leaving, you're on the go. Can you explain why the division of the fire investigation has you around Jamaica like this? What is so pressing about the role that you play, sir?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to the viewers. I thank you for this invitation. The passion for investigating fires is unspeakable. It's unspeakable. Being in the service for 26 years, I have had the opportunity of attending multiple speakers, and want to make mention of when I was asked this simple question, simple but yet powerful question: what is the cause of the fire? Now, being a fire truck driver, I've been around the steering, but when that question was asked, that was the only question we could not have answered. That spurred me into action.
What caused the fire?
What was the cause of the fire? You could ask us how long it took the truck to get there, I would give you the answer.
Right.
So wait a minute.
I would have told you how long it took us to extinguish a fire.
No, wait a minute. You're telling us that you have not always been a fire investigator?
No.
How did you start off in the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Sir Kerr?
My passion for the fire brigade started with me wanting to drive ambulance.
Oh, okay. You were
I was impressed. Being in high school, I applied for this job when I was in 11th grade. And I got my letter. That time, in those days, you're young.
The acceptance,
But
I am
in
young.
those days, I got my acceptance letter at the post office. So I went to collect my mail. And in so doing, I realized now that according to the letter, I am on file and I will be notified. So I left high school July of 2000, what year? 1998.
My God. 28.
You left high school?
You left high
Yes.
school.
1998.
1998.
And you joined the service.
And I joined the service.
Straight
I
out
left
of
July
high school.
1998. I went to training October 1998. And then in December of 1998, I was stationed in Montego Bay. So my journey in the service is one that is very, very wide. And again, when that question was asked, that is what propelled me to dig deep into what's the cause of fires. Because one needs to understand that once it burns, there must be a starting point.
Yes.
And the starting point is what I was after.
Okay.
Just now we had an interview with Mr. Fletcher. He spoke to us about solar panels and we learned a number of things. We are aware there are times when there have been fires that involve solar panels. And as an investigator, have you ever met any such fire? And did you have to investigate any such?
Well,
What has been your experience?
in my journey as a fire investigator, I have dealt with several situations. Two dealing with solar panels and multiple situations that has to do with electronic devices.
Yes.
Just to jab three incidents. In 2019, I clearly recall being called to the parish of Westmoreland.
Yes.
It was a hotel where that fire believed to have started from a faulty charger. So the German national, she just left her apartment, was downstairs at the bar, and she said she was there for a little while, over half an hour, going 45 minutes, taking a drink or two. When she heard persons in the hotel and she saw movements of everybody saying, fire, fire. And she saw them running upstairs, but she didn't pay them any mind. She just continued drinking. Only to realize that it is her room that was on fire.
Oh.
Now, when I interviewed her, it came out to the point that she left her original charger in Germany. Now, her phone battery was going dead.
Wow.
So she just purchased a little knockoff charger out here.
Wow.
Okay.
Where she left the phone was the other point. She left it on a sofa. So when that battery exploded, it ignited the sofa right there.
Right.
So what would have caused the battery to explode? Yeah, I know it would have been from charging, but would it be increased voltage, low voltage? What would you say would have caused it to?
The contributing factor was as a result of the charger.
Okay.
The charger itself was defective, was not giving the right volts that it was supposed to. So the breakdown started from there. We did some research. We had persons did additional research to come to that conclusion.
So I want a follow-up question to that. As a fire investigator, would you say that it is easy to find the cause of fire, or does it take certain level of technology?
Well, it's not easy. There's a scientific approach, but I will get to that. Just to share just two more quick examples. Another one was in St. James here, where we had a similar situation of a cell phone being left uncharged on a bed. That was also another situation. And then in Trelawney, we had a situation where a solar battery was the main cause. I have on this slide there, I dubbed it a suicidal combustion.
Right.
So if you mind, just take a look at the slide.
Not a problem. We want to also let our online audience know that though we'll be turning this way to view the slide, you should be. All right. I'm being told that they're able to view what we're seeing as we
Great.
speak.
Okay.
So if we could just go through quickly so I can just let everyone see what I'm referring to. So I dubbed this a suicidal combustion. Fire causing termination of the photovoltaic system. It's a pretty name. So clearly you can see the solar panels on top of this house. Next slide, please. And then you can see clearly that there's no connection to the GPS grid.
Okay.
Next slide. Now, external observation, there were smoke stains from the upper section, and clearly the doorway is open. Continue. These are just some internal footages, go ahead, of what inside the house looks like. Spalling on the wall, upper sections of the wall.
And then over that section there, if you notice the spalling that is there, and there are some devices on the wall, there are some combustible materials on the wall, there are some furnitures also in the picture. We'll get to that. Continue. Continue. Now you can see the breaker panel in the home. Continue. And certainly you can see where we have identified trip breakers. Continue. Now, what are those? Those are the lithium batteries. The question was asked, is the storage appropriate? Now, the narrative behind all of this is the occupants of the home got up in the morning, went to work, and the children went to school. All the windows of the house were closed and the doors were closed. So when this fire started, neighbors saw smoke coming from the house and the fire department was alarmed. When the fire department got there and they made their entry, the fire was extinguished. The fire committed suicide because all of the available oxygen within the space was consumed by combustion. There is not 1 ounce of water that was used to extinguish this fire, yet 90% of the content within the home was affected by the fire. Next slide. Next slide. So clearly you can see the extent of damage in that space. Go ahead. Now, somebody would ask, so why are you saying that the batteries were the point or the specific origin? I'm going to prove it to you. Go ahead. You can see fire indicator burn patterns along one of the battery, the casing of the battery. And now if you took note also, you'll note that the mattress, the sofa itself, the extent of burn, especially to the upper arm, closer to where the batteries are. Go ahead. Can you see what the screen is saying right there?
Ruptured lithium.
Ruptured lithium battery. What would have caused it to rupture? Let's just get a closer view. Next slide. You can see clearly that that was rupture. You can see the jagged edge. So our investigation for this fire would have led us to the conclusion that improper storage was one of the contributing factors to this.
Where was it stored, if you don't mind me
asking? It was
asking?
stored in the living room, right in the corner. The sofas are there. So it is caged into a corner in the living room.
Okay, there's something I saw earlier, the spalling on the wall. What does that tell you as an investigator?
Clearly we know that hot air rises. So therefore the levels of spalling that we saw on the upper sections of the wall would have spoken to the intensity of what is happening. The thermal heat, thermal layer traveling upward, right? Okay. But those fire indicators that were there, those spalling, those were minor, minimal. Okay. Those were just superficial burn patterns because the paint was just bubbling. That was it. It was really superficial. It wasn't as intense. So due to the quick response of the fire department, due to the available oxygen within the space that was consumed in combustion, we can clearly see that this situation was mostly thermal heat damage that would have affected mushroom.
Awesome. District Officer Kerr, before you go forward, as an expert fire investigator, you know, one of my favorite TV series is CSI Miami. Whenever anything goes wrong, you would see the expert dissecting the evidence. They would take what I would consider to be insignificant, bring it under the microscope, look at it, and they would make sense of what they have found. Take us into the mind of a fire investigator for a moment.
All right.
What are some of the steps that you would take to ascertain the cause of fire?
All right. Certainly I can do that. With the aid of the projector, let me just walk you through quickly the systematic approach to investigation. Now, as a fire investigator, it is a scientific approach that has to be taken. Investigating fire is not speculation, it is not a matter of what you feel. It is a matter of empirical data that is scientifically proven. So can we continue with the slide, please? Continue. Now, for us as a fire department, it is very, very important for us to understand what is the possible causes of fire. Is it accidental? Is it natural? Is it incendiary? Or is it unknown, undetermined? Next slide. Go ahead. Just keep it running. Keep it running. Keep it running. This is our guide as fire investigators. The methodology of investigation, the systematic approach. And these are the 7 steps that must be followed in every investigation. We recognize, we define, we collect, continue, we analyze, we develop, we test, and we select. So to give a better understanding of what it is, go ahead, let me break it down. Continue. We recognize that a fire or explosion has occurred. The fire investigator is called out to do the investigation. Next slide. Then we define the problem. And in defining the problem is that we conduct an origin and cause investigation. Now, this is one of the things that is very close and very, very important in investigation, the collection of data. The data collected is called the empirical data because it is based on observation or experience and is capable of being verified and known to be true. And that data that we have collected, we turn to analyzing that data. Now, this is a scientific method that is required that all data be analyzed. This is an essential step that must take place before the formation of any form of hypothesis. Now, it is important to know that any data that is based on knowledge, training, and experience of expertise of the individual doing the analysis. Simply meaning, if I am not an electrician, and I am called to investigate an electrical fire, it is not my call to say clearly what ABC is. I have to have dialogue with a certified electrician. And that statement received from that certified electrician is entered into the report that gives the report weight. So this is a person that is now authorized to give such a statement. Now, if the investigator lacks expertise, as it clearly states, to appropriately attribute meaning to any piece of data, then he should seek assistance. In investigating fires, it is not one-man team. It is a team of experts. Now we move further.
Before you move on, can you list some of the associate groups that you've had to work with as it relates to solving a mysterious cause of fire?
All right, first, let me start with the meteorological.
So you listed the electricians.
All right.
Can you list some others?
So I spoke about the electrician, Meteorological Center of Jamaica. I would have been in dialogue with them as it relates to getting weather patterns.
During the time of the fire?
Because weather is important. The forensic laboratory in Kingston, they would have been dialogue to analyze evidence that we tend to be, we deem to be evidence, to do their scientific assessment of that. The scene of crime from the JCF, they would have been involved in investigation. So it is the stakeholders, the partnership has been created where you have all these persons to your disposal in a professional manner.
Okay.
So you use a lot of other agencies.
That's correct.
To aid in solving the mystery of what caused the fire.
Right.
But today we are here embracing digital innovation to improve fire safety. Do you utilize any form of technology and then there's gathering your data and basically
Good question.
these mysterious fires? I noticed from your first slide, you were able to show the roof and the building with the panels. But you got that picture?
Well, certainly, technology is so advanced now that we use it in many forms, fashions. For us here in the Jamaica Fire Brigade, we utilize drone technology that provides a great appreciation of aerial documentation. We are also equipped to detecting thermal heat imaging. So if there are any means of body heat, we can also detect that with our drone technologies. I have a accelerant detector that
What does that?
that can be used to detect accelerant. So if it is deemed that gasoline
Oh,
or
gasoline.
any flammable substance was used to or is dosed, then certainly we can get concentration readings and to know that yes, certainly there's something here that can be collected. and packaged.
I have a question. I want to make it very clear. Some would wonder how effective we are, the fire investigation department. Have we been able to solve any crimes? So I'm asking you, what are some of the results that you have seen from the investigation of fire as a whole?
But the mandate is to treat all fire scene as a crime scene until proven otherwise.
Wow.
And certainly with the assistance of other government state agencies in collaboration, we have been making good strides. We have had successes in investigation. We have got positive results. So certainly we have been making a positive footprint as it relates to solving these crimes.
If someone had an incident where their house property was destroyed, could they contact the fire brigade and ask for an investigator to come in and investigate the fire? Does it work? How does one access the fire investigation department of the Jamaica Fire Brigade?
Well, with all fire-related emergencies in and around in Jamaica, the fire brigade has a mandate to respond to these emergencies. And upon responding to these emergencies, all arms of the organization that are appropriate for that situation will be activated. So if that situation merits investigation, investigation will be a part.
Right.
If it merits another section, that section will be a part.
Right.
So the services of the organization is open to the public because we are servants of the people. So anything that is
I appreciate that.
I'm glad you said that. You said merit investigation. So you do not investigate all fires. Based on what you just said.
I would not say all fires are investigated. Once the fire unit responds, the first responding officer does their first level of investigation. I think the question you are probably trying to, or the nugget you're trying to pull out is the extent at which the investigation is done.
Okay.
But once the fire department is in receipt of any fire call across the length and breadth of Jamaica,
A measure of investigation is done.
investigation is done
Right,
by
right.
the crew that responds.
Right,
to the call.
right.
Okay. I wanted to know what amount or what level of fire do you as the chief investigator, that's where I was heading.
Okay. Well,
When do you call? When are you calling?
well, certainly there are fires that are of great significant financial value. Persons losing lives, livestock, the value, the risk. When you look at all of that, it certainly, or when in the interest of the responding officer, they deem the cause of the fire to be undetermined.
Okay.
Based on the complexity
Right.
of data that is there and how, crowded the scene is. So you need an investigator to come and dissect and to break it down into syllables and to really
So you're basically here to educate the public. And as a chief investigator, I know you would have all the data. For the purpose of public education, what would you say are some of the leading causes of fire that you have seen, and what can the public do to mitigate against making these mistakes?
All right, so to kick that off, straight up, wall fans. Whether it be a wall fan or a standing fan, we need to take precautionary measures as the preventive measures as it relates to these devices, because from time to time, they do have contributing factors leading to fires. Secondly, I would say scented candles. Because we have what is called nose blindness. You're now immune to the fragrance of that scented candle that you automatically start leaving your home without realizing that the scented candle is still plugged in.
Wow.
And then where the scented candle is plugged in, there's a window, there's a curtain right there at that window. Now that heat ignites the curtain. Sometimes these curtains are silk.
Talking about the plugged-in one, I thought
Yes.
you were referring to the one.
The plugged-in scented candles, right?
Yeah.
We're speaking also about where we place our cell phones to charge them.
On the bed,
Because oftentimes these cell phones are placed on beds
on the couch.
and plugged in. We're talking about hair dryers or we call it blow dryers. Yes. I remember recently there was a fire where a lady had a blow dryer plugged in. The power went away and she went outside, started remembering because the power is out, not remembering that it was left plugged in.
Right.
Now when the current returned, that blow dryer started up and it was on the bed. Now when that heats up on that mattress, you tell me what will happen?
Well, I guess you were called in. I see we are running out of time.
So these are some of the things.
We can go on for hours, but I'm going to give you the floor to express to the persons, okay, what is it that you want from them to ensure that we have a safer Jamaica as it relates to preventing the firefighters from having to come to all of these roads. What they can do in place to mitigate against the sort of fire risk of fire.
Well, one of the recommendations right off the bat that we want our residents to know is that fires are dangerous. Fires are both good and bad, but in the context of destruction, one needs to be mindful that you need to ensure when you're leaving your homes, you monitor, you deactivate all your electronic devices. So your fans, if where possible, ensure that it is plugged out. Be mindful of your microwaves. Be mindful of all the heat elements within the space. If we are to speak about candles, ensure that children stay away from candles and lighters. So there are a lot of things that are there, but just be conscious whilst you're in your space and when you're leaving your space.
Thank you very much, Sir Kerr. It was a pleasure speaking with you, learning about the interesting world of fire investigation.
I think
Part-
we will do this again.
Part 2
If you're open to it.
shall be next. Thank you, sir. A pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, District Officer Kerr, leading fire investigator in St. James. At this moment, we will take a small break so you could refresh yourselves. We will be back in 5 minutes. They say, look how man crap my phone. A joke in the day. People are calling you Jody. Hold on, Hamilton, have you muted?
Learning is continued. But there is something special about learning while having fun, learning while being engaged. And I believe we are able to accomplish that. We have accomplished that today.
I believe so.
Right? Now, what they said, is it last and least?
No, what they have said many times is that we save the best.
Save the best for last.
For last.
I thought it was the last but not the least.
For this week, we're in a celebratory mode.
Okay.
And we are celebrating the giftedness and talents among us.
Yes.
This week, at this time of the day, we want to focus on the fact that we have an in-house author.
Yes.
A brilliant young man.
Very much so. You know, one of the things that surprises a lot of persons.
Right.
Wouldn't surprise us, because we're in here.
Right.
is about the caliber of person that we have within the
That
Jamaica
is
Fire
true, that
Brigade.
is true.
It is not just about domino playing.
Right.
It's not just about putting water on fire.
Right.
Or better yet, showing up to fires late, as the
I've heard.
public might say.
I've heard.
Right? We have a lot of other talents in the brigade, and highlighting these talents is simply astonishing.
It
to
is.
see, right? And these are young men who have given their life to service,
Right.
while actually fulfilling their calling. I think that's a part of our motto, you know.
Can I
Not
share
a
this
prayer.
with you? That when it comes to firefighting, and can I just add this as well? We have some brave men in the brigade, but we have some brave women as well.
Of course.
May I ask the audience to put your hands together for the outstanding women in the Jamaica Fire Brigade? And to be honest, to have that female presence within the fire station makes a world of a difference.
Well, you know, women in anything makes it better.
Yes, and as a good Jamaican, we want women to be involved
It's
in
like
it.
food with season.
I didn't know why you used that comparison, but let's stay on point today. Ladies and gentlemen, our very own firefighter Micheal Morrison will be sharing with us his book, Resilience in Fire. Make him welcome. Make him welcome. Good to see you, sir.
Mr. Morrison. Have a seat, sir.
You know, I want to begin this part because years ago there was a little in-house joke. It was said that a firefighter went to a particular fire scene in his earlier days of joining the service. It is said that when the firefighter saw the fire and how it was raging and boisterous, the firefighter said, "Save yourself! Run for your life!" The firefighter is still within the service as we speak, but what I want to find out from you, is trauma real within the Jamaica Fire Brigade or within any fire brigade for that matter?
Yes, trauma is very real, and it is a real concern to me and to my co-workers, because
Just the camera, guys.
what is not really available are the avenues for firefighters to express themselves or express their experiences and emotions when dealing with trauma. And I hope by the end of my interview or this interview, some light will be shed on that and the available resources that are available.
I appreciate that.
Okay. So, Mr. Morris, we have about 15 minutes with you, right? And during that time, we hope to get as much information as we can.
Most definitely.
Okay. So, just to start off, right? I heard everything you just said. You decided to write a book, you said, right?
Right.
All right. Do you have any background as it relates to the context of your book? Because the book says, the name of the book is, go ahead and tell them.
Resilience in the Flames.
Resilience in the Flame. Tell us about that.
All right. What we need to understand is that firefighting is more than just a profession. It's a lifestyle that involves dealing with intense stress and trauma on a daily basis. Right? And being a firefighter, I've been exposed with the level of stress and trauma, the emotional and psychological trauma that firefighters face. I was motivated to write this book because I wanted to provide practical strategies that speaks to these unique challenges, as well as provide resources that they can use in order to improve and maintain their emotional and mental well-being.
Okay, so the book gives you the tools how to navigate and to handle these traumatic experience.
Exactly.
Okay. And give us an example of what could be considered a traumatic event that firefighter might face on a daily basis.
All right, firefighters daily, they encounter a lot of life-threatening situations, whether it's battling fires, responding to motor vehicle accidents, or even saving someone from hazardous conditions, right? Along with that, firefighters also face a lot of, or they witness a great deal of loss and suffering, which can have long-term psychological impact. However, unlike other professions, firefighters face trauma that accumulates over time. Right? And in my book, I focus on helping firefighters process these experiences by providing techniques specifically designed to address the stress and trauma that comes along with this line of work. Some of these techniques include managing emotional fatigue, dealing with loss, as well as building coping mechanisms for high pressure or high stress situations.
Okay. The fire brigade is a male-dominated organization, and there is an obvious stigma over anything considered to be mental health in Jamaica. But here you are telling men to process their stress in a very healthy way. How do you package this message that the men and women within the Jamaica Fire Brigade can be more open to it?
All right, I like how you phrase that question. All right, in the culture of firefighting, there's always a sense of toughness, right? And admitting to having or struggling with mental health issues can be seen as a sign of weakness.
Weakness, yes.
Right? In my book, I encourage firefighters to speak openly about their experiences and their emotions.
So you want me to tell Mr. Gordon that I went on the fire scene and I saw a corpse burnt out, and that the imagery of the corpse is still lingering in my head? You think I can be so vulnerable and tell Mr. Gordon that he will laugh at me?
Well, what you need to understand, just by speaking about or talking to someone about what you have experienced can provide some sort of relief. Right? And if you don't want to speak to Mr. Gordon about it, right? I also suggest professional resources such as counseling, all right, or even creating a dedicated hotline specifically designed for firefighters or first responders on a whole.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. I have been in the Jamaica Fire Brigade for about 16 years, and I know that we have a chaplain, right? Would you say that that aspect of it, I know that the department is very small, so what you're saying is that there's a need for more persons, right, to provide these aid as it relates to how to deal with these traumatic events?
Yes, because we have, 33 stations, right? And we respond to, as I said, we respond to emergencies, life-threatening emergencies on a daily basis. So the more persons we have available for firefighters to be able to vent with and share their experiences, the better. Right? And you don't want to overwhelm that one person.
Oh, okay. Because he too might then induce that stress that you're putting onto him.
Exactly.
Okay, understood. All right. One of the things you said, you have a lot of coping mechanism or a lot of different ways in your book. Tell us of some of those ways in which we can. So I want to put myself in a position. Earlier, Mr. Davis gave an example about him seeing a corpse, not wanting to tell me. Now, how would you give me some of those mechanisms that he can utilize, or some of those tools that he can actually utilize from your book?
All right, some of those strategies, there are several strategies that I outlined in my book. Some of them include mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
All right, stress relief techniques, learning how to manage your emotions under stress, as well as building strong support networks. For example, I emphasize the importance of taking short moments to reset during stressful events, which can be done by either practicing breathing techniques, or by simply talking to someone.
Okay.
Right? I also emphasize the importance of physical health, because mental health is one thing, but you also need to improve and maintain your physical health. And that can be achieved through regular exercise, eating healthy, and getting good sleep. Right? All of which is vital for building and improving your mental resilience.
So you would not recommend rum or any of those other aids?
No.
Just one, just guy.
Within the fire brigade, it has been said, who rescues the rescuer? And I feel as though sometimes the public and leadership, management may ask us to be heroes on a daily basis, and they expect us to always be wearing our cape. But here you are telling us that even though we operate as Superman to this country, that within all of us is a Clark Kent, and we ought to take care of the rescuer that is asked to rescue everybody. Let me ask you as well, I know that firefighters are allotted a number of sick days per year, a number of departmental leaves per year, a number of vacation leave per year. Can you talk to us about the importance of taking these? But there are those who don't feel like they should leave the work to go home and just, refresh themselves. Can you talk to us about living a balanced life?
All right. Remember I mentioned that taking a moment to reset, right? You need to detox yourself, right? By taking the sick leave or the departmental leave. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're sick enough, and you don't have to be physically sick, right? There's also mentally sick, right? So the resources that I mentioned are the strategies that I mentioned. If persons in power, or if we as firefighters can normalize those options, right? To use or to highlight it as a sense of strength rather than weakness, the stigma around seeking help will be eliminated.
Okay. So you wrote this book, Mr. Morrison, and I want to commend you on that. But just asking you, was it from an actual experience that led you to write this book, or was it a need? Did you see the need for your fellow firefighters while you did it? What led you to take on this journey?
Being in the profession, right, I have witnessed or seen a lot of persons struggling and behaving abnormal, right?
Erratic.
Right? There is such a thing. All right. Other than being a firefighter, I'm also a psychology student. So I understand.
That's where we want.
Right?
Oh, so that's where the backbone came from.
Right. So people behave abnormal. It's not that they want to. Right. As I said, the avenue for them to express themselves is not available. So I want to provide those avenues where people can be able to seek help when they need to.
I want to ask, how can the average firefighter identify and assist with those who may be struggling? Let's say I come to work on a given day and I notice that someone's consistent behavioral pattern has somewhat shifted. How can we identify that something seems to be off today? And what are some of the things you would recommend, even to an untrained firefighter, to administer care and advisement to their coworkers?
All right. Good question. All right. There's no one shoes that fits all.
Nice.
Right? And the first step is for that person to admit that they have a problem, right? And intentionally seek out help. Right? And you as the co-worker, the best you can do for that person, being untrained and not familiar with the techniques or strategies that can be used, is to offer a listening ear. Right? Because most of the times what people just need is someone to listen to them. Right? And from that, you can use your judgment, speak to the person in charge of the team, and that person should be able to get that individual the necessary help they deserve or they need at that time.
All right, I want to ask you a final question from my standpoint. Can you share any story or example from firefighters who have successfully used your strategies in your book, all right, to overcome their stress or trauma thus far?
Yes. All right. Several firefighters, but I'm going to just mention two. All right. A firefighter mentioned that by incorporating mindfulness during an emergency has helped him to remain calm, right? By practicing breathing techniques before responding to the fire, he was able to prevent him from being overwhelmed on the scene,
Okay.
right? Another firefighter stated that seeking professional help has been the turning point for him because he was struggling with past traumatic memories of past events, and that seeking counseling, professional counsel, have helped him to improve his performance on the job.
Oh, okay. I know I said final, but it's so good that I don't want it to end. Earlier, you said that it's a male-dominated organization, and male are basically led by their egos, right? So they don't want to open up. But reading this book, one of the things that you notice or it said is that bottling up stress can also lead to being impotent. So the same thing that you're trying to hold on to.
I think
you
every
could
man
lose,
from today, Mr. Gordon, will take stress seriously. Can you repeat that point, please?
I'm gonna let Mr. Morris do it. It's in the book.
Mr. Morrison, I don't believe you were speaking from experience. I hope not. But do share with us the impacts of stress and how it relates to the male reproductive system.
As I said, everything doesn't work the same for everyone.
Right.
Right? So there's a lot of factors that can lead to that.
Right.
And as I said, I'm still a student.
Yes.
Right? So I can definitely say that stress leads to that.
Wow.
All right?
Okay. All right.
Right. Mr. Morrison, it has been an engaging discussion. I genuinely feel that within the Jamaica Fire Brigade, there is room for this conversation. And we wish you all the very best with your book. But let's say there is someone outside of the service who wants to patronize your material. How can they find you? Can you give us some information on that?
Okay, so my book there's no charge to my book. My book is free of charge.
To people
right?
within the brigade?
Outside or inside the brigade,
Wow.
right? Mental health should be free, right? So there's no cost to my book, and if anyone wants a copy of my book, they can just send an email to reflectiveminds@gmail.com, right? And you'll receive a copy within 24 to 48 hours.
Are you open as well to visit schools or business places to perhaps give a talk on your experience on the book, and can they engage you in this type of venture?
Sure, definitely. All right, as I said, recovering from mental health or building resilience is something that has to be intentional, right? So once you feel the need or see the need for this conversation, I am always available.
I know you're not a therapist, as you say, but can anyone just call you, or how accessible are you?
I'm glad you mentioned that I'm not a therapist,
Yes.
right? So whatever information I will provide will have to be information that is already out there, right? So yes, I am available, but I would not say as a therapist.
No, man, no.
But to share your
Right.
experience.
Yes.
Right.
Sir, Mr. Morrison, do stay with us. We want to continue this leg of the discussion. We want to continue this leg of the discussion by inviting again.
Not yet. Okay. So inviting the team up.
Right, by inviting again, you can stay with us. So we'll invite the entire panel to return so we can have a Q&A segment. Let me invite District Officer Kerr and Corporal Fletcher to join us at this time.
Okay.
All right.
Come on over, man. Come on over. Make some room here.
Do join us, sir. Thank you. Our audience has been listening.
Yes.
And we are excited to know that they have questions for us.
But before we get to the audience,
Right.
right? These gentlemen are back with us, right? And if we have not learned anything today, we have learned to look out for each other.
Right.
Sir Kerr, how is your mental health, sir?
That's what it's supposed to be?
Yes.
Okay. It's doing great so far.
Yes. As men, we have to look out for each other, you know,
Certainly.
at certain age.
Certainly.
Mr. Fletcher, how's your mental health? It is well.
Can I share this with you before you go forward? No, I understand why firefighters do. It was one way to de-stress.
Stress, yes.
Right.
Especially when you win.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
All right, so we're back to the Q&A. At this point, we'll show questions out to our audience
That was keen to ask questions.
earlier.
And we are happy that all of you are here. So Mr. Kerr spoke on fire investigation, Mr. Fletcher on photovoltaic systems, solar panel systems, and our in-house author, he spoke on resilience in the flames. You can access that book for free on his Gmail account, and we want to say thank you, and we are extremely proud of you. Now we want to open the floor.
Yes, firefighter Reed, we'll take your question. You were saying?
Followed by Lance Corporal Dinal. We will take your question.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My question is for District Officer Kerr. Sir, as being a fire investigator, sir, could you list some of the major challenges that you experienced when going to an incident scene? And what are some of the pointers that you could probably give to maybe the community members as well, in terms of maybe, I don't know, evidence preservation, being your brother's keeper, that kind of thing. So again, sir, what are some of the major challenges that you experience when you do go to a fire scene, and how can we then get the community members involved as pertains to evidence preservation?
I like that. Preserving evidence.
It's a wonderful question. Thank you for that. One of the real concerns, challenge is the whole idea of seed preservation and seed contamination. Obviously, someone seeing their investment going up in flames is not a good feeling. And the idea of where will I rest my head tonight, persons tend to spring into actions very quickly to clean up, start efforts of cleaning up, because they need somewhere to sleep tonight. And to get the residents understand the importance of seed preservation and contamination, you know, if they do that, it hampers the process of investigation. It disturbs everything. So that is one of the challenges that we face, but we also implore them, we show them the benefits of allowing the process to take place so that effective investigation at the end of the day will be conducted.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, firefighter Lance Corporal Dinal, you were saying, go ahead with your question, sir.
Question to Mr. Fletcher. Regarding the solar system, how effective is it during all seasons in terms of hot classes with years, minimum light and such? Will it stay effective go for the solar?
Good question.
Thank you for that question. It's a good one. Jamaica is located basically where we call the equator, right? As of such, this lower line doesn't really impact us as you know, countries like the USA and so on. So, like in the December period or so on, we'll have shorter days, but indeed 5 hours, shortly, that's the time frame we normally set aside to calculate when designing a system that we get at least that amount of sunlight to charge a system efficiently. So whenever we size the system accordingly, we take that into consideration, which is an average amount of time that Jamaica basically is exposed to.
So on average, you're saying you only require, if you have the correct amount of panels and battery, on average you only need 5 hours of sunlight to be your 24-hour span.
That's our system that is designed.
Yeah, man.
And the size correctly.
Size correctly.
Yeah, when doing the calculation, we're going to look into the amount of sun hours we're getting. You understand? Right.
Okay. So once I have my system is sized correctly,
Right.
and everything that I should have, I have. All I need is 5 hours, and then I get my good 24 hours. That's correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
However, I must say though, you understand, and like storms and, you know, we didn't have those exceptional...
Yeah, man, you wouldn't have your 5 hour those days.
Right,
Yeah.
get that. Or so. But even in those times, you should not really run out of power if, you know, you practice to conserve energy. Okay.
I want to make this investment, that's why I have these questions. Yes, Sergeant Barrett, you were saying with your question? Go right ahead, ma'am.
I think Sergeant Barrett was thinking about as it relates to Morrison's book,
Morrison's book.
Resilience in the
Okay.
Flames,
Okay.
and how mental health affects us. You know, we take for granted the impact of a woman working in stressful settings. Ms. Barrett, I think you had a question regarding that. Could you go ahead and state your question, please?
All right. Mr. Morrison, what mental health techniques would you suggest for us as firefighters?
All right, that's a good question. Thank you for your question, Ms. Barrett. All right. In a high-stress environment like firefighting, all right, building resilience is essential, right? And several techniques I outlined in my book, such as mindfulness, right? Stress relief techniques, learning how to manage your emotions under stress, as well as building strong support networks on the job, because it's a 24-hour service, so we spend most of our time here. So if we can create strong support groups at the station, it will do wonders for the firefighters when they go through traumatic experiences.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Okay. Yes, Firefighter Forbes, you go ahead with your question, ma'am. Like, we just keep the ladies going right now.
No, I appreciate that. I think she was quite intrigued when Mr. Fletcher was speaking about the solar panels.
I think she might be.
Are you contemplating a future investment in solar?
Okay, so she probably wants a quotation or something.
A quotation.
Don't let me preempt you. Go ahead with your question.
Go ahead with your question.
Solar panels. If there's a fire, right? How can you identify what caused the fire if there was a solar panel attached to the structure?
If you don't mind, would you like Mr. Kerr to assist with that question?
Yes,
Since
Mr.
he's
Kerr.
in charge of fire investigation. Great question, by the way.
Thank you for that question, Ms. Forbes. And I'm so happy to be sitting beside Mr. Fletcher, who is in that area. So there are several heat factors that are within that space. You have the solar panels on the roof. You have the location where the batteries are stored. You have the looms that run from the panels through the conduits. All of these factors have to be taken into consideration. Now, for us in investigating fires, the burn factor fire indicators is what comes to mind we look at. And there are times where, based on the burnt impressions that are there clearly, it tells us where the fire will have advanced. So it's not in all cases where you have a structure that will have a solar system that might be the cause. There's no one trap that fits all in this case. It boils down to what are the empirical data on the ground, and then for you to analyze if it's a case where the fire burned from bottom, advance upwards, or it started from top, advance downwards.
So these are some of the factors that we look at. But certainly, as it relates to having a home that is equipped with solar panels, which is a credible heat source,
Yes.
we have to look into that. And then we look at the possibility versus the probability, and then the process of elimination. So we leave no stones unturned. We look at all heat sources within the space, and then the process of elimination through the scientific approach comes into play, and then the last hypothesis that stands will remain the final hypothesis.
You know.
I think before you do speak, I think we are having an influx of questions from the audience, and we wouldn't want to inundate our guests. So we'll take perhaps about 2 more questions, if you don't mind.
Just 2 more.
Go ahead.
But I have something I want to ask.
Right.
Because let's make it 3, and I'll add mine to that.
3, okay.
I'm just happy that we have both of you sitting here. Now we have the person who installed it, and we have the investigator. Right? We are basically embracing digital innovation. Right? So the question from the installer and the fire investigator, would you say that our solar system is safe for the home?
It is.
It is safe.
It is safe.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yes.
Questions?
Another question for District Officer Kerr. Because I do believe that everything here is being streamlined. So just members of the community who may have this question. Let's just say, sir, that my home, my residence, sadly has been burnt, due to a fire. What would be the process that I would go through in terms of maybe gaining some potential information as to like a report or something like that, like a public heritage insurance company, or even to an organization that could provide some help? What would be that process?
All right, thank you for that question. So certainly, once the fire brigade responds to emergencies of this nature and the investigation is done, persons feel free to make contact with that responding station, where you will be so advised. You would speak to the person that is in charge, and you'd be walked through the process of applying for a verification, right? So I mean, certainly we have a lot of our residents who have items in their homes that are on hire purchase and stuff like that. So getting this document goes a far way. Also getting assistance from government agencies, lending agencies. We talk about Food for the Poor, we're talking about the Municipal Corporation, we're talking about Red Cross, we're talking about the other agencies that comes on board, your politicians, right? Certainly, if you do not have this piece of paper to say that, hey, I am a result of a situation like this, then it's going to be hard. So the first thing, you need to visit that responding station, that fire station that responded to your emergency. And you will be so fitted with a document. And then the process begins right there.
Okay. Thank you. Awesome. Final question.
Yes, this question is for Mr. Jervn Fletcher. Just for the viewers who came on late and didn't actually get on with the presentation, just re-emphasize of the 3 types of system that can be installed, which would be most economical or beneficial.
Alright, so earlier I mentioned the grid tie, the off-grid or the hybrid system. Pretty much what we find most residential, geared towards is the hybrid system. However, if you're a business place and you just use energy throughout the daytime, not so much as in the night, then grid tie will perhaps be more suitable for you or somebody. In terms of which an individual goes with, it's sort of dependent on the wants and needs of that person.
Thank you.
And for those who need to, but they want to ask further questions, get a quotation or something, again, my contact information should be on the screen. On the screen, right. Or so on. Or you can just send me a WhatsApp message at 876-421-1829.
Thank you.
Mr. Fletcher,
Yes, sir.
I'm using about 600, well, I want to use about 600 kilowatt for the month. Would I need to break the bank to install that type of system?
No, sir, you don't have to do that.
And by breaking the bank, I mean borrowing or getting a loan. Okay, just to clarify for the public.
The cost is not what for me, I would say it is not so exorbitant.
Oh, so I'm looking about
it is quite affordable.
less than 5 million?
Less than 5 million.
Less than 4?
Less than 4 million.
Less than 3 million?
Let's put it at for your convenience, your comfort. Yeah, 3 million, maybe 2.5, and even 2.1 would give you a very good size system or something.
Thank you for that.
And if you're thinking about something smaller or so on, then approximately 1.6.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Davis.
Ladies and gentlemen, I see a passionate person in our audience. Go ahead, Ms. Barrett.
Mr. Fletcher just saying, after installing the system, can you just tell us about maintenance of the system?
Oh.
Alright, in terms of maintenance, as I mentioned earlier though, most of our systems today, we use lithium-ion batteries or so on. So most of you will get this information that they don't require much maintenance, which is really true. However, having an installer, to carry out maybe one maintenance, for the year can, really save persons, because sometimes you may have loose connections that happens over a period of time, but stuff, components due to heat and so on, corrosion build up, all of that, or so on. So one maintenance for a year is pretty much good enough to get the system working efficiently through here. If you're using a lead acid battery, then I would have to perhaps check with you and to see, based on the discharge and charging of your battery, how often maintenance could be for that kind of system.
So what about the cost factor as it relates to the maintenance?
Cost factor, like as I mentioned, the lead acid battery, those would require a certain amount of materials, to carry out the maintenance. And it's not, what should I say, a one costing for every individual. It all depends on the size system and so on that they have. So I would have to meet with such customer and determine the answer based on assessment.
Well, we've had more than a mouthful today. All right? And unfortunately, we have come to the end of our first in the installment in Fire Focus.
Right.
Hopefully we can make this a recurring thing. I know we have many persons that want to get on the platform. I know that Mr. Kerr has a lot more to add, Mr. Fletcher, and we need to follow up with Mr. Morrison to see how the resilience is going as it relates to the flame, conquering the flame. Right? Gentlemen, we want to thank you for coming on today.
We thank you.